starting point of coming to this country is understanding the laws of this country, understanding the consequences of breaking those laws and the absolute basics. And, that is critical that people understand.
Deaf pupils in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have got their all-important GCSE grades half an hour or so ago. Last year, more than two-thirds of all GCSE entries were graded 4 or above. That's a C. We can speak now to the Schools Minister Georgia Gould. Georgia, morning to you.
Good morning.
What's the message on GCSEs today? What's the top line? Are they working? Do they have a point?
Yeah, I think the top message is just a huge congratulations to all the students around the country. I know I get to visit schools and I know how hard young people have worked, supported by their teachers, their teaching assistants, their families. And it's a really big day, accumulation of years of work. So really proud of everything our young people have achieved. And yes, these are really important qualification, whether it's GCSEs or Tech Awards that many young people are also getting today, that open up lots of different avenues. And for young people thinking about their next steps, there's A-levels, there's T-levels, there's vocational qualifications, and from 2027 we'll start introducing V-levels, and from university to apprenticeship, so many different routes for young people's futures, whatever their aspirations.
Lucy Power's been talking about the pernicious system of resits. I wonder how we got to a situation where a third of people basically can't get a C, a 4 or a C in maths and English. A third of all pupils. That feels like a colossal educational failure.
Yeah, so I think we've had a long-term disadvantage gap in this country, and while we've seen some great improvements, we've also seen too many young people who've been left behind and who haven't had the support that they need early on. And so I think you're absolutely right. We need to address these issues earlier on in the education system, making sure that we're intervening really early around literacy, around numeracy, putting in that extra support, learning from the best schools, and putting in more support for those young people.
But I guess the question is George, is that say they get to the point where they've got less than a C. Is the answer that they need to have a C in English and maths in order to cope with the world? So actually they should just, it's not a pernicious system of resits, they should just keep going until they get to the requisite level to contribute to society? Or is the answer to say, well, you're never going to do this, we're going to find other ways of qualifying you that mean you never quite get to that level?
I think the pernicious thing is continually putting young people through resits when they're not ready to pass those exams. So yes, absolutely, children should continue to have access to English and maths. We know how that important English and maths is for their future.
But they should get to a C level, that's the point. Should they be able to get to the level of being a C quality of English and maths?
So I think we're saying that they should continue to be taught, and we are putting in place 100 hours of teaching post 16, and making sure that teaching is of a really high quality. And if they're ready to take GCSEs, that they are able to do that and get a grade C. But putting them in before they're ready is just unfair and demoralises them. And so what we're bringing in is a new qualification, a stepping stone qualification that allows them to show what they've learned, the progress that they have made, hopefully get a qualification. And for some young people, that's going to give them a lot of confidence to be able to go on and then sit the GCSE. But for some young people, that shows that they have a set of skills that they can use in the labour market.
But does that mean, though, George, just to be clear, that there'll be some people who leave school then who, we have to admit educationally, we couldn't get to the level of a C in English and maths?
So at 16, yeah, sadly we do have a number of young people, almost a third of young people who do leave school without a 4 in English and maths. That's something that as I was saying, we want to address much earlier on in the education system. But post 16, we want to ensure that they continue to learn English and maths, to build up their skills. And for some young people, that will mean that they get to a 4 in GCSE in English and maths. But for some young people, we're introducing a new qualification that gives them something to leave education with if they don't get to that GCSE grade.
I want to ask you about one more story that's given a cause for a lot of comment this morning, actually. Yesterday, the Home Office published a guidance for asylum seekers telling them not to rape or sexually attack women, explaining that domestic abuse is a crime. Women are regarded as equal to men in this country. I think, taking the views of our listeners who have been texting in this morning, people want to know this, is if you have to tell someone not to rape, if you literally have to have a pamphlet on the subject, why on earth are these people in our country?
Well, firstly, if people don't have a right to be in our country, then we are moving much faster to process asylum claims and to remove those who don't have the right and to be here. And you'll have seen the figures that have come out today showing that 80,000 people, the highest number since 2010, who don't have a right to be here, are being removed from the country. But in terms of these...
But many of those didn't come on small boats, it must be said. Many of those did not come on small boats. And we still have... I know the small boats numbers are down, but they're still very high. There's still tens of thousands of people. They're predominantly men. This would suggest that we have a problem of predominantly men coming from cultures with such bad values, such incompatible values, that the Home Office has to issue a pamphlet telling them not to rape.
Look, I think the starting point of coming to this country is understanding the laws of this country, understanding the consequences of breaking those laws and the absolute basics. And, that is critical that people understand as a very starting point. And if people break the laws of this country, that they will not be able to stay in this country. And we've made it much easier to remove people who break the laws of this country.
Do you think, Georgia, we were having this debate in the studio, do you think it's fair to say, it's reasonable to say that some cultures are more troubling than ours? Our culture, when it comes to the issue of sexual violence, for example, which has many, many flaws, and anyone will tell you that, but there is a culture in this country that is superior to other cultures, say a culture in Afghanistan. Is that a neutral thing to say? The culture within Afghanistan or even Pakistan, for example, is worse than ours when it comes to women's rights. Is that just an acceptable neutral thing to say, do you think?
Well, I think, what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment and, how women are being treated is, obviously very, very different and deeply concerning. But it is for many people who come from Afghanistan. And when I used to lead Camden Council, we had a really large number of Afghan evacuees who came into Camden, and I spent many, many hours with those families. These are people who served alongside British troops, who were acted as security families, and these were wonderful people who wanted to contribute, who had done a huge amount in their country and had a huge amount that they wanted to contribute to our country. And now I know many of those people, women, men, who are contributing.
But there are also men who come from these countries who are traumatised, maybe, but they also come from a culture which doesn't value women. We have to be honest about that.
I think that I don't think it's possible to make those kind of full generalisations. My experience of having worked very closely with Afghan refugees is that there has very many people who were so proud to be in a country that supported women. And I just want to give you an example that I thought was incredibly moving for me. In Camden, we used to do this big kind of thing at the Royal Albert Hall where young people performed, and I bumped into some of the families, and the young women were singing on stage, and they were so proud that they were getting to do that. And they said to me, they would,
but that's not the majority, Georgia. But that's not the majority.
Would not have happened.
I understand that point, Georgia, but we all know that when we look at small boat crossing, it's not singing women who are on those boats. It just simply isn't.
Look, I think coming with. It's not women coming in those boats. So that was the group that came, and it is young men that are coming, and that's why in that means of transport, and that's why we absolutely want to stop it. We know that people are being exploited. We know that it's often risking their lives to come here. We know it's criminal gangs, and we want to make sure that those who are coming to this country seeking refuge are the ones that really need that refuge, and that's why we're cracking down on small boats.
We'll have to leave it there. Georgia Gould, good to speak to you.